It's currently 10:13 here in the Senate chamber of the Honorable Vice Speaker Sus Mafinas Memorial Building. And I now call this Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting to order. Before we begin with roll call, I just want to recognize the LB staff assisting the Fiscal Affairs Committee this morning. We have our fiscal analyst, Dave Dimapon, legal counsel, Joe Bermudez, our senior legislative assistant, Julian Duenas-Stagbo, Sergeant at Arms Ben Terlahi, IT, Del Camacho, and our Youth Congress Coordinator, LJ Castro. With that, I recognize the LA to take roll.
Senator Ronnie M. Cabo,
Present.
Senator Manny Gregory P. Castro,
Estia.
Senator Francisco Q. Cruz, Senator Judy Schneider, Senator Karina Magofnia, Senator Donald M. Mangonia,
Present.
Senator Paul A. Mangonia. Mr. Chairman, 4 members are present, 3 members are absent.
With 4 members present, we have the quorum to proceed with today's committee meeting. And with that, can I get a motion for the adoption of today's agenda? Thank you. There was a motion that was made for the adoption of today's agenda and was seconded. Any discussion? At this time, I recognize Senator Castro.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include Governor's Message 24-171 and 24-164.
There was a motion that was made to amend the agenda. Can I get a second? Right, and it was seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All in favor of adopting the amendment to the agenda, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And with that, the agenda is hereby amended to include Governor's Communication 171 and 164. At this time, I open the floor for public comments. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to make comments today, please state your name for the record and the entity you are representing. There being none, the public comment portion is hereby closed, and we now move down to new business. Members up for discussion, we have House Bill number 24-70 to authorize a public school system to utilize unrestricted funds previously appropriated by PSS for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes. We also have House Bill 2474 to appropriate funds derived from trust interest income from MPOT towards payment of household allotments of Nutrition Assistance Program for NAP benefits for November 2025. We also have Governor's Communication 24-171, which is an update to fiscal year 2026 budgetary resources. And 24-164, the Group Health and Life Insurance Program at risk of termination. At this time, I would like to invite OMB and Secretary of Finance to join us here in the chamber. Thank you, Secretary Narita and Special Assistant Villagomez, for joining us here this morning. As you know, these are the Senate has received two bills up for action. But seeing as how the NAP program is now being fully funded, there's a request that was received yesterday to combine that 1 million that was set aside for the NAP to include with the 4.9 that is being proposed for PSS and the 3.7 from fiscal year 2025 to include in a revised budget if that's still coming up from the House. I guess just to start off the discussion, the 4.9 million that's unrestricted balance, the PSS, that the audit from PSS has identified. Can you please elaborate more on just the makeup of those funds?
Good morning, members of the Senate. So we printed a copy of the audit for the public school system for the year ended September 30, 2022. And in the single audit, it specifically specifies where the funds are coming from. So it's really from the general fund appropriation for the fiscal year FY 2022. It states how much was the appropriation, what the expenditures are, and then the net fund balance at in the end. So I have a copy if the committee doesn't have.
So those are all unused funds from fiscal year 2022.
It says fund balance ending, so it's following all of obligations and expenses. This is the net fund balance.
Okay. Have we received any prior to fiscal year 2022? Is it a practice that PSS would remit back to the general fund any unused fund balance?
The Constitution specifically states that at the end of the fiscal year, whatever is appropriated to the public school system, any lapsed funding, unused, unobligated, unexpended, should revert back to the general fund for reappropriation.
And then do we have any historical data as to whether funds have been transferred over at the end of each fiscal year prior to the identification of these funds?
Not to my knowledge. No.
Okay. So these are not including any local appropriations that were made or supplemental appropriations from your understanding?
Yes, I do understand. So it is a local appropriation specifically for PSS operations under the general fund. And it's part of the 25% funding. So at the end of the year, we have to also remember that during this time of the year, there was that ARPA funding exists. And these are the funds from the general fund allocation to the public school system that have not been spent.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any questions from the members? In regards to PSS, anyone else? Recognize Senator Caldwell. Senator Caldwell, can you use your mic?
Yeah, okay, there. Test, thank you. I just wanted to find out the appropriations that were placed there. Wouldn't the action be that it's remitted back? Or is it with you currently and just identified, or how does that process go?
Our position is that the proper procedure is for PSS to notify either the governor or the Secretary of Finance for these lapse funding and then remit it back to the general fund for appropriation. Similar to MPLT, how they inform Department of Finance of the amount and then remit it back to the general fund.
So when you found, that's exactly the action that took place, or it was still under their account?
So the funds under that are being considered under House Bill 24-70 have not been notified officially to the governor or the Department of Finance. We are simply just responding to House Bill 24-70.
Thank you for that clarification.
Is that money though still sitting within PSS's account?
Yes.
Would you say that these funds are still subject to the 25% if it were to be transferred over back to the general fund?
Yes, if we follow proper protocol and they officially notify the governor or the Department of Finance and remit the funds back to the general fund, then these technically become part of the pot available for appropriation.
Okay. And so based on the memo that was issued out yesterday, to meet PSS's 40 million, you've already considered the 4.9 plus whatever additional appropriations will be needed through the revised budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now moving on to the GHLI. That was another memo that was dated on November 14. The revised budget included 3.6 million and the 7.2 million. Is that the minimum needed to maintain GHLI benefit?
Yes, for the central government's share.
And with that, and with the revised budget memo that came out yesterday, all of that is already inclusive. I just want to make that clear. The 10.8 million for GHLI.
Yes, the necessary funding for the retirees' employer share of 7.2 million was included in the governor's revised budget package.
All right. Any questions from the members? Recognize Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Vicky. In regards to the governor's communication 24-171 on PSS, how did you guys arrive with 2.9 million from the available? No? The 4.9 plus the 1 million. How do you guys arrive with 2.9 million for PSS on that available fund, the 4.9 plus 1 million, right? You get it from there, right?
Yes, thank you, Senator Cruz. We actually prepared some slides that would help to bring up to date the governor's revised package in addition to the additional available funds. So we just gave the Sergeant at Arms to.
We'll take a 2-minute recess to prepare the presentation. Short recess. Now rise back from recess. Prior to recess, we had in question about the PSS is 25%. But at this time, we'll recognize the secretary to go over the presentation that their office had prepared for us with OMB.
Thank you, Chair. So the presentation you have in front of you today is an overview of the governor's revised budget package that was submitted on October 14, approximately 35 days ago. And then in addition to that are the resources that have become available since then, and providing an update as of November 19. So on page 1, slide 2, you see that in the governor's revised budget proposal, the projected revenues were estimated to be at 158 million, less special earmarks and debt service brought us down to 134.6 net available for appropriation. And then included in the revised proposal was the FY 2025 additional funds lapsed from FY 25 amounting to 3.7. So when you add that to the 134, our total available for appropriation in the governor's revised budget submission was 138.4 million. Now, when you go to the next slide, slide 4, here is an update as of today, where the governor's revised budget submission is then increased by 1 million remittance from MPLT to the general fund, and an additional identified revenue source of 4.9 million from the lapsed funds from PSS, which brings the total available for appropriation up to 144.3 million. Now, the priority funding areas were mentioned in the governor's communication to the legislature on the revised package. And as we mentioned, the governor's priority for PSS, his commitment was 40 million. However, in the revised package, we were only able to identify 37.7 million at that time. However, today, with the additional funds, we are proposing to the legislature to consider 40.6 million to PSS, again, to secure instructional time for students. That is the governor's commitment today. To answer your question, Senator Cruz, this is beyond the 25% mandate to PSS. However, it was the governor's commitment to find resources of 40 million to give PSS, and that's what we're providing to you today. And we're ready to answer any questions on the presentation that we have provided copies to you.
Senator Cruz, you still have the floor. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you for that, Secretary, for that explanation. And okay, now with the 4.9, is there any certification that this is a cash, or this is cash?
According to the audit, yes, it is.
It's cash according to the
That
audit.
it's their fund
Can we have
balance.
anything from the audit that it's cash? Just for us to be sure that we're dealing with cash, not just a fund balance, because it's unrestricted, no? And I want after my inquiry, I want Mr. Chairman or analyst to explain in regards to this funding. We want to hear his opinion on regards to that, because if it's cash, we're comfortable of entertaining, no? That's we're sure that it's there. Otherwise, if it's not there and we just keep entertaining numbers and the money is not there, then I'm pretty sure that we're all gonna be in trouble, right? So we wanna see a certification whether this is really sure that this 4.9 is cash.
Again, Senator Cruz, we have not received official communication from PSS. We are going off their FY22 audit that was completed and discussions with the House that this was available for appropriation, and we're responding to the House Bill 24-70. So I agree with you that PSS should confirm and formally submit a letter and remit the funds to the Department of Finance. However, because there have been extensive discussions on this amount that's available, we believe the governor should have a position on the funds should they be available, and that's what his communication implies.
Okay, now, if PSS submitted a certify this that it is not cash, do we have any other plan to cover this 4.9?
No, we're simply just responding to the amount that was made available or discussed with the House for the House bill. And so again, our position is, should those funds be available and it's confirmed by the audit and confirmed by PSS, then those funds should go to the budget for appropriation. So if it is indeed not available and PSS has a different position than their audit, then of course we would have to revise the available resources.
Thank you, Secretary. No, that this concerned me because it's unrestricted, and we don't know whether this is a cash or not. Because if it's restricted, I'm pretty sure that we're all safe. No, that is because restricted fund cannot be used unless reappropriated by the legislature. But unrestricted is kind of dangerous for us to go ahead and allow this to be passed, and at the end, if it's not there, then do we have any fallback plan to cover this 4.9? If not, then I think I should seek legal opinion from my legal counsel as to whether this can proceed forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. I am trying to get a hold of PSS to see if their finance director is available to meet with the committee, whether it be now or later on today, where we can recess and come back. But so really, all you're basing yourself from is the audit report and no black and white communication from PSS.
Yes, the audit report is a black and white communication to
Right.
stakeholders. However, there is no additional supporting letter or communication from PSS. I believe there have been extensive discussions with the House, PSS, and the House. So we are basing our proposal on that information.
Okay. I guess this can all be resolved when we get PSS in, just to confirm whether that money is there, and then we can determine how we can proceed with the 4.9. Are you open to that, Senator Cruz?
I just want to request the member, on Chairman, if there's no objection, if our fiscal analyst can also know.
Yeah. Dave, do you have anything you want to add to the 4.9 discussion?
I think, Mr. Chairman, it would be better to wait for PSS position, and then from there we can determine the nature of this account. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. As soon as I get a response from PSS, I'll notify you guys, the members, of when that will be. But we're trying to get it pushed for today. Hopefully within the hour. Further discussion from the members? Sorry, may I ask? So the revised budget has our general fund, our central government employees at 70 hours. So what is the figure to fund the 10-hour austerity? Do you guys have that information?
The enclosure B is the 10 hours right now. The budget revision enclosure Enclosure B reflects the scenario of the original budget, and then what scenario with the loan and scenario without the loan. So the scenario with the loan is the 70 hours across for all of the workforce in the CNMI government funded by the general fund.
Dave?
The chairman was trying to clarify what's the financial impact of that 10 hours. So maybe you mentioned it's around 10 to 12 million like that?
We'll provide that information, and if you can just give us a few minutes
Yeah, sure.
to pull the document up.
Senator Calvo, did you have a question?
Chairman, just a comment, because I was looking at the governor's message, and it's great that we have the visual presentation to kind of like digest the initial breakdown as explained. So thank you for the PowerPoint. That was my intention. And just the terms and conditions, I know the House mentioned the 4.9 under law, 25% of that certain amount, correct, goes into, but with the special conditions, special circumstances, that 4.9 will be added as you know, agreed upon, right? Or to the initial proposed budget versus 25% of the 4.9. So that's the one you clarified. And just need PSS to, you know, share on that, confirm on their end. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tracy, for the visual.
Thank you, Senator Calvo. I did get word that the PSS Finance Director is making his way here, so hopefully we can get that clarified shortly. Recognize Senator Castro.
Morning, Secretary and SA, Vicky. The question I had here, like the governor's message was pretty, you know, there's a big sense of urgency. It's like especially saying at risk of termination. So my question here is, if we know that the funds that PSS, the lapse funds from PSS is cash, why not just push it through, mitigate the risk of losing our healthcare?
That is exactly what the governor's proposal is saying, is that should the governor's proposal be accepted and passed into law, then we would have the budget authorization to proceed with the next year of coverage. In the governor's proposal, we have secured 7.2 million towards GHLI for retirees. And so really it's just a matter of waiting for budget authority to allow us to proceed with the next year of coverage.
But the full amount?
Yeah, it was already considered in the original revised package on October 14. So the 4.9 from PSS has no effect on the GHLI. It's the governor's original. It's already in there in the original package.
And then a separate question is on the priority funding areas. When it says 1.13 million for government operation, what is that? On the
So the priority funding areas, none of executive branch offices or even the municipalities have an allocation for government operations. And so this 1.13 is to provide some funding for government operations that would cover for fuel, for communications, for supplies throughout the fiscal year. So that is what we have for government operations.
And then on the other column, it says 3.4 million legislative allowance. What is that?
That would be the members' allocation for both House and Senate.
Okay, can we change that to reflect what you just stated rather than allowance, say allocation or? Yeah, but at the same time, in the public, it's gonna look like, there's a difference between allocation and allowance, the way the people perceive it. And allocation is basically the full office allocation. So we just don't want more negative perception, if possible.
We can make the changes.
Thank you. Chair Yield.
Thank you, Senator Castro. So based on the revised budget, which has the employees listed or brought down to 70 hours, how much is the difference of having to bring all those employees back to the full-time status before the implementation of the austerity, and what that impact will be? Or is that something that we would have to allocate for the cost of the 10 hours that was restored during this period? Or was that factored in already?
Right now, just taking part of the package, enclosure B, and I'm just taking the scenario 1 less the 2414. I'm coming up with a little bit over $7 million, but then not including the independent program because there are budgetary gaps that are included. So if we had calculated everything from the judiciary down to boards and commission, it's a negative 7,097,000. But then when you get to the independent program, we have to take into consideration that there's the scholarship program, there's the Office of the Attorney General, there's Joten Kizu Public Library. There are other offices that are embedded within the independent program, and they also are allocated some funding towards the cost for personnel. But in the independent program, there's also that allocation for the GHLI program, 7.2 million. There's that 25%. So, adding that together, there's a positive 7.1 million for 7,143,000, and if you subtract the 7,070,97, there's that 100-some thousand difference. So the budget embeds, the savings, plus we had to cover also the budgetary gap that we have, which is the GHLR program, 7.2 million. There's the 25%.
But so no further allocations will be needed to cover for the month and a half to 2 months that the administration brought these employees back to full-time status prior to the austerity being implemented again.
So what is going to happen when the budget revision takes place? Any allocation that has been made already, either in the first 2 months, if this carries to the third month, then it will be an adjustment to the first quarter, starting the second quarter to the fourth quarter. So the allocation or the allotments to all the departments and agencies would be much less, and there would be an impact for, the whatever, if it's one whole quarter that we're not going to address, the revision that the governor has requested from October 14, then there's going to be an impact, and we're going to have to either proportionately, reduce to ensure that we stay within the appropriation level.
Has your department, I guess, identify how to address the law enforcement that was given the grant, and how they're able to avail of those funds, based on the discussion that we had, SA, in regards to meeting the overtime hours and then drawing down on those funds? Otherwise, would a request need to be made to be able to allow for the use of those funds to cover their personnel expense?
There can be some budget changes. The entity just has to inform the program, the CIP program administered by Ms. Liz Balahaja and the team there within the Office of Management and Budget. But, if there are other expense categories that need to be covered by the law enforcement grant, then we need to submit a request to OIA if it was never included before. But it's, yes, it can be accommodated for law enforcement if funds are still available.
Okay, because that's, what is it, like 3 million for Saipan, and then is that still the case?
So it's 3 million for Saipan at the original request, and because there's going to be a longer process to go back to OIA and request to make changes, that 3 million is specifically taken out from the Saipan allocation. However, the governor has allowed to share the allocation, provided that the following subsequent allocation for the program that the Saipan, the third senatorial district can recover from the first and second, which were handed out, like 375,000 was provided to each, to Rotantinian out of the 3 million allocated to Saipan.
I thought that the OIA approved for Rhoda and Tinian to have its own taken out of its own share,
No, that request was not made.
but it was published, I think, from
Uh,
from OIA.
We had, they were informed of what the governor had, opted to with the 3 million
Okay.
to share the allocation for the law enforcement across all municipalities and recover the cost later.
Okay. Any questions from the members? This 1 million rainy day fund, yeah, can you explain what the proposal is? I mean, we're at this is where we're at, right? In a rainy day situation. And so what's the idea of setting aside money now for a time like now, like what we're going through? I know there is a legislation that would appropriate or set aside monies in future fiscal years for this purpose, but if they're proposing to do it now, what is the purpose of setting aside that 1 million in this fiscal year?
The governor's position on the rainy day fund is that we could learn from the situation, the recent federal shutdown, and that our vulnerable community was affected in that way. And we also know that the continuing resolution for U.S. Congress will be entertained again come January. And we want to make sure that funds are set aside should other programs be affected. and that we would be able to respond immediately rather than having to wait for the legislative process should those funds be needed for any program that is critical. And so that was really the governor's intention behind the rainy day fund. Again, if it's not, if the federal situation does not have any impact on any critical programs come January, then those funds again can be applied or redirected to other needs.
Okay. Has there been any discussion with the MPOT loan and that? I think part of the stipulations within the agreement is that the governor maintains 100% reprogramming authority. The DPL reserve funds get transferred. Has there been any discussion in regards to those requirements that MPOT has set forth?
We have a meeting set for Friday with MPLT to discuss a draft executive order for the governor to comply with the requests for DPL. Again, the governor did request for 100% reprogramming. However, we have informed DPL that it is, that comes from legislation. And so we do support that position that he should maintain the 100% reprogramming authority.
But is it something that MPOT will still consider moving forward if that's not granted?
Again, we're meeting on Friday to discuss the situation.
Yeah, thank you. We'll take a 2-minute recess. I think that might be the finance director. And so we'll allow him to make his way in, and then we'll continue on. Short recess. I'll rise back into our committee meeting, and at this time, I just want to take the opportunity to recognize and thank the acting PSS Commissioner, Ms. Jackie Che, and the Director of Finance over at PSS, Mr. Jonathan Ogden, for joining us at such short notice. The discussion is primarily on the 4.9 that the House had passed, House Bill 24-70, to authorize the use of these unrestricted funds that was identified through the 2022 audited financial report that was also shared by Secretary and OMB. And so I guess the first question is, we don't see any committee reports for this legislation. Is this something that PSS is aware and have been in communication with the House on? If these monies are available, and is that something, do you have any comments that you'd like to provide in regards to the bill?
Sure, yes. We have been in communication with members of the House regarding the unrestricted funds. And again, these are funds that were that have lapsed in prior fiscal year and that have not been spent. And from what I know, since I was not part of the finance department or management at the time, it's due to timing. So at the time that the fiscal appropriations were made for the public school system, the I guess transmittals or the transfers to PSS were not timely. So PSS leveraged what it could in terms of federal funds to sustain its operations. And also understanding the state of the economy in CNMI at the time, we leveraged federal dollars what we could for operations as we waited for the local appropriations to come in, which resulted in the lapse funds of the 4.9 million. And so that is the figure that we have so far from the 2022 audit. We are trying to explore and determine what the actual figure is right now. That's something that I do not have with me. We're trying to reconcile that. The issue that we have is just trying to make sure that we have a number that we're confident in. Given the challenge we have is the migration from JDE into Tyler, to make sure that we have solid figure that we're confident to present, because we wouldn't want to give a greater number and to say, oh wait, those funds were actually expended. So we're working on the recon with that, and because we're working on the 2023 audit, which we're finishing up very soon, we should have at least the 2023 figure that we can submit.
Are you anticipating lapse funds also for 2023?
It's very possible,
Okay.
given the strategy that was implemented in 2022. However, I'm not sure what that would look like if the system eventually expended funds at the end of the fiscal year.
When do you expect the audit for 2023 to be completed by?
Our timeline is end of January, but we're trying to finish before that, because we are also preparing to launch the 2024 audit as well, to finish in a much tighter timeline.
And so with the 2022 audit though, how that's finalized right now, are you confident enough to submit to the administration that these monies are available for reappropriation?
These are funds that we can certify that we have unused and that we still are retaining.
But you have those monies at the bank right now.
Yes.
And it is available.
Yes.
Senator Cruz?
Yes, thank you. So that 4.9 is already spent?
No.
Which one is spent? You mentioned earlier.
The appropriation, let's see.
So do you have is that cash, the 4.9?
Yes.
And why never reported to finance or for proper appropriation? Why wait until audit comes in?
That
This is 2022. I
I'm
know you're not there,
yes.
but since you know about that, right? You know about that when you came in. You know already that there's 4.9 when you came in, prior to all this legislature due process here. You know already there's 4.9.
I was made sometime when in my term as the director that to look into the unrestricted funds.
Because even you put unrestricted and there's lapse, it cannot be used unless proper appropriation comes in, meaning we have to reappropriate any lapse by the legislature. But if you guys keeping it back, an audit comes in making us feel like, because no offense to PSS, I really like to give PSS funding because of us, you know, the kids, no? But when you have lapse, ne, and then you're asking the following year, you're asking for more, but you still have lapse, no, on hand. How do we feel for the other agencies, like for example, critical agencies like the medical referral to hospital and other essential department like law enforcement? You know, I don't want to go against BSS, but something like this that you're asking for more and you still have funding that you, I know that you mentioned about federal, no? Because I already asked Commissioner at the time that how much you're receiving every year from federal. He said 60 million. And that 60 million never, you guys never miss those, right? You always receive that because that's the share for the cinema, right?
We can have Ms. J respond.
So that's why I'm trying to understand when you guys asking, you know, because you know I don't appreciate when you use the kids to come up and protest, even the side of the road. You know, you're making us look bad here at the legislature when in fact you still have money left over unspent. And let's, you know, my point here is let's work together for the kids, right? But if you have lapse and then you keep on asking for more and then you keep using the kids like, oh, we will cut down hours or there's morning session, afternoon session, in making us look like we don't care about giving funding to PSS. But yet you still have lapse, no, every year. And I'm pretty sure that all this 22, 23, 24, there will be lapse, right? All these years. In your, because you're in control for, right now. Back then you're not, but since when did you come in?
October of this year.
But have you reviewed all the
We
funding
started
of
to
PSS
review
from-
it. Yes.
So you're pretty sure that even before the audit comes in, you already know what's there, right?
Not confirmed, but it's very possible.
Like I said, I'm not against PSS. I'm just trying to, you know, to understand that by not working together is not a good idea, you know. If you guys don't have money, we understand. But showing on the audit report that there is 4.9 for 2022, how do we feel about that? Of course, if it's, you are in our shoes, you feel the same thing, right? So please, let's try to understand and not use the kids and the parents to go out there and start creating, you know, animosity and hatred to the elected leaders, because we're doing our very best. Whenever in any way the legislature will hold back funding for the school, of course we have to think about the public health. We want our kids to be educated, but if you don't provide also public health and they get sick, then what? Just to get to be educated and you get sick, and then so we have to have a balance here. You know, let's try to work together and help all those areas that is very critical and important for everyone. So it's not, like I've said, since I became a senator, I'm always supporting PSS 100%. But seeing something that doesn't fit, it makes me feel so bad, because we're parents, students, they're targeting legislature that we don't care. And please, let's communicate, let's collaborate and collaborate with the legislature and see what we can do, not bring the kids and parents and start doing kind of protest, because that's not good. We're not fighting here. We're trying to find solution to one another. Because you guys are educators, you're supposed to teach, right? To teach what is good for. The first thing that when we're brought up is respect, right? So let's respect one another. And believe me, that will be, nothing will go wrong when we respect one another. We're going to be helping one another. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. Acting Commissioner?
Thank you, Senator Cruz. You mentioned we are here as partners, and we are. And I also want to commend Jonathan, our Director of Finance. He's come on board in October. So there were plans that were made prior. Because of the delay in the transmittal funding over to PSS, right, we have that $4.9 million sitting in that account. It was not intended to be hidden and not disclosed to people. It was part of the long-term sustainability plan because we knew that we're going to be hitting this cliff. We knew that ARPA was going to end last year, and it did end September 30. So with regard to your question about do we still have funding for the next fiscal year, 23-24, Jonathan would not have that information right now, but what we could speak about is the FY22. The $4.9 million is only there because ARPA kicked in. I had to request from Department of Education for additional funding to reprogram. These were funding that were intended to help repair our schools, but because we were not receiving timely funding, we had to reprogram funds to cover our local personnel salary. So that meant that there was, the 4.9 funding left. That was intended to kind of cushion the blow of this year. Because when the commissioner and the finance team met with former Governor Arnold, we did request for $49 million to operate. He did share with us that he can only provide us $40 million, and if we can just work with the $40 million. So commissioner did say, you know what? We understand the community is struggling. We will work with the $40 million. Granted that we have this amount of funding left in the account that we can use, right? So, $40 million plus that funding to at least get closer to $49 million. Unfortunately, with regard to students protesting, we cannot stop students from wanting to voice their concerns, right? But I understand what you're saying. We don't want our kids to think that the government is bad, that we're not on the same boat, because entire CNMI is suffering. I think the students were afraid that if we did not get the money that we needed, it would impact school, right? They will not be able to go to college. So they wanted to voice their concerns. We couldn't stop them. But I agree, though, that PSS should do a better job in educating them to make them understand the process, right? Rather than they're getting information from left and right, they're angry about it, they want to protest. So in the future, the commissioner did share that we will do a better job educating our kids with regard to the process, but we don't want to stop them from voicing their opinions and their concerns, right? But I agree, though, we are in this together.
I think we should stop using kids. Let's talk as an adult. Let's not involve minors into this situation because it's not right. I know that they have the right to voice, but if it's not coming from PSS, they will not voice anything out, right? It starts from PSS. It's the influence of the adult at PSS that makes them come out and participate. Of course, we cannot stop them. But if there's no influence for them to come up and start doing this, let's work as an adult, not get minors involved here. You believe that minors should be involved in all this kind of discussion? Or should we talk as an adult?
I think that our students' voices are very important.
I understand.
Yeah.
But in these regards, they can voice out.
Yeah.
On other areas that they, but in this regard that we're talking about budget, how would they know that what's happening within the central PSS? If they don't know, if they're not influenced by an adult, they will not be participating. And like I said, You guys have the right to voice out your concern to get what PSS deserve by the Constitution, no? But what I'm saying is, you get them involved in this kind of activity while you still have funding left over. So, meaning you're not short. Even though you're getting money from federal, you're supposed to use those money, not lap. Because how do I feel? Because if you have a lot of laps and you're asking for more, why? In my own opinion, why should I give you more when you have laps? I should be looking at those departments that are lacking funding to deliver the public, the best public service to our community. I think in any U.S. jurisdiction, if you're not spending your money, even the federal is not spending your money, they're not going to give you more than if they're giving you 40 million and you're not spending 40 million, your lapse a couple of million. You believe they're going to give you another 40 million or more? They're going to cut you down because you're having enough funding to operate because you have lapse. That's what I'm talking about. Let's not get these minors involved in this kind of situation, because adult can solve situation without those kids that are getting mobbed. Because we cannot continue to teach kids to go out and start participating in this kind of I know that you're trying to say that they deserve the right to voice their concern, but if it's not coming from you guys, they're not gonna be doing this kind of activity, bringing them up here. When you guys bring up here, making us look bad, but to the whole community, especially the parents. And I'm thinking, what are you guys trying to do? You're asking for money, but you're trying us to, you're bringing things, you bring this situation to a worse situation, rather than, discussing in a very normal and friendly manner so that we can come up with a good solution. But I know that we're elected officials, but that's that threat for us. Like telling the parents, if they don't give us the money, don't vote for this guy. Don't vote for those new, what are you guys trying to prove? We never go down to PSS and get you guys in trouble that you're not giving the best education possible to, we never do that. We leave it to you guys. You guys are expert on that. Us, we're trying to. And guess what? I supported 25%. You guys getting 20 cents out of a dollar. But still getting these kids involved. PSS have to be mindful that we have other critical areas as well. It's not that we don't want to give you guys, but we have to be mindful for public health. We need to help one another, like I said. And please, let's start discussing this adult and adult, not get those minors involved, because this is not right. And please, don't say that they have the right to voice their concern. Yeah, of course. Everyone have the right to voice their concern, but in this kind of regards, man, it's unintentional for me. For PSS to get what they want. I understand. And even me, I'm supporting. Whatever I can support PSS, I will support. But seeing numbers that are there that are unspended, how do I feel? You brought these kids up here, but yet you have lapse. Please, let's resolve in a very friendly and normal manner, rather than get them involved and so that they can pressure us and whatever you guys want to do, For me, it is not right. You guys are well educated individuals at PSS, you know better than that. And I think everybody should understand that the legislature is not against PSS. It's just we're trying our very best, like I said. The rest of the agencies are sharing with the 75 cents,
Yeah.
while PSS have 25 cents out of $1. So please, let's work in a friendly manner rather than trying to create problems. Right? You guys you're educating kids also to respect the institution and the faculties, and right? So the same thing as us. Let's work together.
Yeah. May I respectfully
Thank you, Chairman.
respond? Senator Cruz, we're on the same page. And although I'm only acting commissioner for this week, I do want to speak on behalf of Commissioner Camacho that the students were not used to pressure the legislature, although unfortunately that was the outcome, right, of their protest. So early this year, the commissioner took it upon himself to do town halls, in every school, right? Because we knew that the funding was not going to be there. So he had to present to the community, if we get this amount of money, this is what's going to happen. Different scenarios, right? And it's most likely that we're not going to get the money we requested for. We're going to probably get $30-some million. So what will that look like? $30-some million will look like no school on Monday or no school every Monday. So he shared that information, not intending to pressure the government and make sure people call you and complain and whatever. It was just to give a picture. Here's what may happen. And he wanted to be upfront and transparent with our schools, right? What came out of that is the kids were, of course, understandably so, they were upset. We have staff who are upset. That feeling we cannot control. What we can control is the information that we share, the numbers. If we get this amount, here's what's going to happen. So that materialized, right? And unfortunately, kids protested. But it was not to protest and say that the government was not doing its job. They were protesting on their behalf, right? They understand the community is not doing good, but they came out because they knew that their education would be affected, right? The schools will have to shut down for a day every week. You did mention the $60 million in federal funding, and we're doing our very best to see how we can blend and braid the funding to cover local. Unfortunately, these grants are very particular. We cannot use Head Start money to fund our teachers, right? We cannot use the money allocated for meals to fund our maintenance. So I can assure you this, okay? This next year, this PSS is looking at cost-cutting measures to bring down our request. It's not going to be $49 million every year. We are going to bring that down. And that I can assure you on behalf of Commissioner. But when you speak about the lapsed funding, again, it was not intentional, right? That PSS was hiding money and then we're requesting for more. It's because we needed to operate on $49 million. We've been operating on that amount. But we were told by Governor Arnold that we may get 40 million, and that was the highest we could ever get. It could be lower than 40 million, but if he tried hard enough with the finance team, he could get us up to 40 million. Mind you, again, 49 million is what we need to operate. But he assured us that he can possibly get us to 40 million. That 4.9 was supposed to help us get closer to the 49. Right now, you're appropriating us $31.7 million. We are the only agency in the CNMI that is getting the largest cut. From our ask of 49 million to a compromise of 40 million to 31.7, right? Again, I understand. We don't want the public health to suffer. We don't. If I could think about what's more important, health or education, of course I would say health. That's life. Education, we can do online, we can learn, right? But I think it's unfair to tell PSS that you guys have to operate on that amount because other agencies will suffer. I think we have to be very upfront and say we're all going to suffer, and we will suffer. We will suffer with the rest of the community, but knowing that that amount is what we're going to be getting, here's what we will do: no school on Monday, and the commissioner has already implemented that, right? No school every Monday. So we're in that boat with the rest of the community.
I think we're not going anywhere now. But this is my concern too. When you have lapse, you should have just reported to them so we can reappropriate and give it back to you. But I don't know how you guys operate with your financing at Central. But 2022 is unreported 4.9. You could have just report from 2022 if there's lapse, 2023, 2024. So can we reappropriate and give it to you guys so you can have additional funding rather than just sitting there? Why you guys just sitting on those funding without proper appropriation? Yeah.
I could not speak for the former director of finance on why the funding was sitting there or why it wasn't reappropriated. I could not speak to that. But what I can speak to is that money is really needed. All 4.9 million is really needed by the district. And I hope that by it not being disclosed, I hope that will not affect PSS, because at the end of the day, we still need all of that money to be able to operate. Even if we get to 40 million, which was our ask of the former governor and current governor, even with the 40 million, we can only go up to 68 hours. We cannot go to 70, we cannot go to 72. So we're really asking at the very bare minimum for 40 million just to add on additional 4 hours so that we can kind of interchange every Monday, have school on Monday, no school the other Monday, and so forth. But Senator Cruz, I do apologize on behalf of I cannot speak to the former director of finance, right? But I do apologize if the Senate does feel that PSS was in any way shortchanging the entire CNMI or hiding that funding. I don't think that was the intent. Knowing who these people were, that was not the intent to hide that money, but to ensure that once we hit 2025, 2026, that we would still have enough money to float, to keep the district afloat.
Sorry, before I recognize Senator Castro, Director, you have something you want to add?
Yes, and if I can kindly add, I think this is also a great opportunity to have an invitation to sit together and collaborate. I think that should be our intent moving forward, and to be transparent. I know that, like what Ms. Che mentioned, we have initiatives right now to cost cut, and we are looking just in the interim, like with drafting right now, a much slimmer budget versus that 49 million. So this is just our initial, and then we have formed a task force to ensure that we're looking at our operational costs, operational needs, and even right-sizing central office and schools to ensure that our budget is reflective of our actual operational needs, and to identify what's nice to have and what we must have in order to operate. And I think that we can also set as a goal for the finance department. I can speak that we would like to be as transparent as possible with the numbers, with the entire central government to assure that funds such as the unrestricted funds are transparent in reporting, and that we can collaborate if there's any subsequent lapse funding, and that's something that we can uncover, and we want to aim. The partnership, I think, is key moving forward. So I hope that we can achieve that. And I know that the commission has also mentioned, even in our management meeting yesterday, that he hopes to have a sit down with members of the Senate, the House, and even the governor to affirm this partnership, and to also affirm the ask and our own efforts to reduce in terms of our personnel cost. One of the measures that we have proposed to the board is a salary freeze, so that we don't have any future adjustments. We just look at trimming from this point forward.
Thank you, Director. Recognize Senator Castro.
That was a lot. I want to thank Senator Cruz for kind of bringing us back to our roots. As a product of PSS also. Even going back to San Vicente Elementary School, positive action kid. We graduated from that a long time ago, but I think we need to, those pledges and character, and a key part of that is respect. I think we need to bring that up to PSS central office as well, because just from what was said earlier, a lot of these communication was mainly made not with the full, all the branches. And that's why we're kind of like having an issue here too, because first of all, I do agree that, you know, as someone who's also worked in education for many years, your former coworker, I do believe that you know, students, yes, they do have a right to voice their concerns. However, as an institution of learning, we should make sure they have the full picture. We should make sure they understand all the elements that are and dynamics of the issue. But when the students came up here and voiced their concerns, just by some of the statements that were made, there was a lot of missing pieces. And if we go back to that session where our Senate president, you know, kind of gave the dilemma, if we follow through with that request that was made by PSS, and then let's fast forward further, like 3 weeks later, exactly what the Senate president mentioned about the budget, it happened in real life. The projection was really off. So basically, if we follow through with that request that PSS was making, we'll be at 50% of our available resources. So at the end of the day, yes, students should be given the opportunity to voice their concerns, but there's a time, a place, and a manner. And at the same time, we need to give them the full picture, the full information. And when we're talking about cost cutting, we like to say that, right sizing, cost cutting, but I want to give an example of, and let me just elaborate also on what Senator Cruz mentioned. Yes, you're asking for more money. In reality, you had money that was not spent. And just like us here in the Senate, if we don't spend something, you know, like we have community events and a lot of our procurement, if we don't spend it, it just goes back to the, you know, finance holds it, right? So I think there's a lot of disconnect there, and it's unfortunate that it's only happening after the fact when the situation is happening right now, when it should have been happening before to mitigate the problems that we're facing right now. Cost cutting. I wanted to ask, like, for distance ed, I want to give that example. What's the average size of a distance ed class at PSS?
If I'm not mistaken, was it 20 or 25?
I know that this they're also replicating the max so that a teacher cannot have more than 30.
30, so it's 30.
That's the cap.
So one teacher can have no more than 30.
Mhm.
So then you're gonna do, if it's no more than 30, they're allowed to teach multiple sections. Is that correct?
No.
No?
That's
One teacher can only teach one class. Up to 30 students.
yes.
Okay. How much is that teacher compensated? And so this is like not your regular full-time. If you're already teaching full-time at PSS, but then you decide to also teach
Yeah.
distance. So let's say a full-time teacher decides to teach what's an average salary for a teacher that's also teaching distance?
About 40 to 45.
So 40 to 45,000 is their normal salary. And then they decided to teach distance ed at PSS. How much are they compensated for that, not the regular class, for a distance class?
It is 225 per student.
So 225 times, let's say the max is 30 students. So that's an additional 6,750.
I think, may I correct that? I think it's $112.50, $112.50 per head,
Per term.
per term.
Yes.
Okay, so it's term, it's 200 some, but
It's-
per head
yes.
it's 112.
Yes.
Okay, so are we at 225 per student, or what's the actual
For this
number?
semester, it is is 225.
So it's not per head.
It's per head, so 225 per student for the
For the entire
course.
semester.
Yes, for both terms.
Okay. So that's not 225 times 30.
Correct.
So that's 6,750.
Correct.
Okay. Your average college level class at NMC, the compensation for the instructor, and sometimes this is a master's level, is 2,100. And that's for 5 months. So there's some, you know, like if NMC were to follow PSS's instructor distance ed compensation, NMC would be broke.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why the college doesn't operate like that. They don't operate per student. And distance ed is a great opportunity to get ahead. We support distance ed, but at the same time, if you don't have money to fund regular classes and you're going into austerity, these are the things we need to look at, like, right? And so, because we do have instructors out there that are saying, hey, you know, with their contracts being amended, but they're not seeing the other sides, that can be cut, or processes that can be. So when we have lapse funds and we have all of these elements here, like I really think so thank you for getting on board, Director. And maybe we can look deeper into some of these issues, because as the largest employer on island, I believe PSS is still the largest public service employer. There's a lot of people out there that have these genuine concerns, and I don't feel like it's being addressed fast enough. Go ahead.
Thank you, Senator Castro, for also sharing that we used to be coworkers, because when I was at the college, I had the same concerns about that. But just to let you know that the former federal programs officer and the ITDE program did do their research, and they did look at different distance ed programs in the nation to come up with a calculation, the 112 per head. Early this year, I've met with the ITDE program to revisit that. So there is move to bring that number down. There is also a move to evaluate the program itself to see if it's being implemented well, right? And just to let you know, the ITDE program is our model program. You know that it has won national awards. Even the Department of Ed has also notified us of that program being a model program. But I understand the concern about the funding, that it is a lot, right? It could be seen as a lot, especially if we compare the amount that NMC instructors are getting, 2,100 a semester. With that being said, that number will be going down, but that funding is not coming out from local funds. It's supplemental funding, right? So because it's not required that our kids do distance ed, it's only supplemental. So that funding is coming out from a different grant. But I do want to assure you that we are looking into the program, and there will be changes this coming year about the amount that we're going to be spending per teacher, and also the courses that are going to be offered.
And thank you, Director. And I just want to say, for those that don't know, Acting CEO was the Director of Institutional Effectiveness at NMC, so I know it's going to happen when she says that. This is not to attack distance ed, right? And PSS has received a lot of awards. I know a lot of the personnel that were involved in the initial inception of a lot of these programs. But there's a genuine concern from a lot of teachers at PSS that there's some, kind of, there's something going on with the compensation, and they don't see the equity between difference, and at times it's also the same people teaching the same courses, but I think that's something that your board is going to start to handle and take a look at. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because, sometimes we think that because it's federal funds, it's okay, right? It's okay to just splurge, but no, it should not be that way. That's not how it was before. Like, I think we should, if we have federal funds, it's not like let's spend it all because it's going to be gone. It should be like, how can we invest further to reduce our costs, because we do not have the economy of the national government, like, because yes, we can always look at national standards, but we don't have national standards in terms of an economy. We just get the some crumbs. Right, it's a lot of crumbs, but so that flows into everything from compensation to operations. So just because we're getting a lot of money from Uncle Sam on the federal side doesn't mean that we shouldn't use it to leverage and make our programs more efficient. So, it doesn't just all go to personnel expenses. It can go into reducing our, and I know that we're doing that on some fronts. But I'm just going to go back to what was said earlier. We need, if we're really practicing what we're preaching at the school level, because my kids are also are currently attending public school, we wouldn't have this issue about, respect and making sure that when discussions are being made, it's informed with everyone, not just here at the legislature, but also giving the parents and the public the full picture of what's really going on. Because if that was actually, I think I don't need to explain any more. I just want to say thank you for being here and also coming in, because you actually also clarified some of the questions we had with the Secretary of Finance and in terms of certification of funds. But thank you.
Thank you, Senator Castro. We're going to go ahead and wrap up with this PSS discussion and then go back to SOF and OMB. But just in regards to the 4.9 million, I don't know, Ms. J, if you're able to make that decision. Are you able to notify the administration of the money that is available for appropriation, or do you think that can be done by tomorrow? Let's just say tomorrow morning.
When you talk about informing the administration, do you mean memorializing it officially that there is
Yes.
$4.9 million
Yes.
in cash?
Correct.
I think that's the most appropriate thing to do.
Right.
We can put that in writing and inform.
Because that's one of the concerns of the committee is that we're, from what we heard from the secretary, we're going off of a financial statement or the audited report, and without any formal communication coming
I
from
see.
PSS. And so, if you can do that in the morning, and then the administration can notify the Senate in before 2 p.m., which is when we'll recess until, then we can
Okay.
work on appropriating that 4.9. But if I may ask, does the 4.9 are you guys currently operating based off of the understanding that you will get that 4.9?
Currently, we're operating based on the appropriation.
The current fiscal year
The
budget.
actual.
So what will that 4.9 do?
It'll elevate us from the 31.7 to 36.
But in terms of operating, in terms of hours being restored, what does that look like?
it does not help with our restoration.
So you'll
Because-
still maintain the 64 hours?
Yes, for 64 hours we need 40 million.
For
Or
60,
39.
yeah.
For 68 we need 40 million.
Yeah.
For 68, you need 40 million, but for 64, you need 39 million.
Yes.
So you need 4 million for 4 hours. I mean, sorry, you need 1 million for 4 hours? How does that work?
Sorry, those were just rough numbers.
I've got a copy of the letter that you prepared for the Ways and Means. Unfortunately, the Senate wasn't given copies of that letter, but I'll share with the members. But I do see the table that you have prepared. The 64 hours would need 39 million. The 70 would need 41.8.
Yes. So,
So how do you go from a jump from 64 to 70? That's a 6-hour increase, and only needing approximately 1.9 million just to cover that 6 hours.
sure. So for 64, it's 39.4. For 68 is 40.9. So it's about 41. And then, so of course, personnel makes the bulk of our expense. Not all personnel are would be immediately paid more due to the hour increase. So, for example, the substitute teachers, substitute teacher aides, they're paid on a per day basis. So their increase in number of hours, well, it's just the number of working days would be different. It's just a calculation on the type of employee.
Okay, sorry. So let me go back. Today, you're currently operating at a 31.7 budget, correct?
Yes.
By increasing it to 35 point, what is it? 35 million. That'll still maintain their hours?
Well, I mean, I could revise that statement. We're working on the 31.7 appropriation with the hope and anticipation that there will be an adjustment so that we can at least continue working at a 64-hour level and not having to furlough. But if there's no adjustment to be made to the budget, we do need to furlough. Anything below that, well, the key threshold that we have is 37 million. We're going to have to furlough, or at least to meet the 31 million, about 300 employees.
Okay. Do you have a ballpark amount of what your 2023 audit or unrestricted funds would be for fiscal year 2023?
I do not have that with me, I'm sorry.
Recognize Dave.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you have an expenditure report and versus the actual to date for FY 2023 as of September 30?
We can prepare that.
And that will be able to give you a hint as to how much
much is
surplus
left.
you would have, right?
Yes.
So that's information
Okay.
that we can get.
Thank you, Dave. Secretary, you had something you want to add?
Thanks, Chair. I think while PSS is here, I'd like to maybe suggest that an updated budget scenario be provided. So on September 6th, while we were in Washington, D.C. and seeking federal assistance for PSS in our 902 consultations, I was provided by the chairman of the board information on the budget scenarios on September 6th. And according to that document, what was needed for 80 hours for personnel was 37.6 for 80 hours. And so our request to OIA was based on this budget scenario. And then, of course, there's the all others budget that was on this scenario for a $40 million budget was 6.1 million. So the total request was 43.8. And again, that would be for 80 hours. But just focusing on the personnel, since we're focusing on personnel in this discussion, was 37.6 total personnel expenditure for 80-hour budget. So again, I'm hearing different numbers, and what would be helpful also for the administration to review its own commitment is for an updated budget scenario at what 80 hours would look like, at what 72 hours would look like. Because again, this is information we shared in DC based on what was provided to us at that time, and I don't have any other updated scenarios. But again, we were with the 40 million commitment, 37.6 would have restored 80 hours, and that is the assumption that the governor is operating on. And then we're hearing something different again today. So again, it would be really helpful to again update the conversation. Because in our proposal that we've provided today and the governor's communication is that we have provided a proposal for 40.6 million to PSS with the identification of the 4.9 million. Again, operating off of what was given to us, that 37.6 was enough for 80 hours for PSS and to get students back in the classroom. So if that situation has changed, we need to know as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and if we can get a breakdown of why that figure has shifted. Thank you for sharing that, Secretary. You said that to restore the 80 hours, PSS would need 37.6 million, but based on the letter that was submitted by the director on October 27, to restore the 80 hours is at 39.2 or 39.3. So there's a $2 million variance there with personnel alone, separate from any operational expense. So if you can also provide that. But I think in order to move the 4.9 forward, we would need, PSS would need to notify the administration, and then we'll also get that notification or the memo from the administration that those monies are available. And that way we can act on the 4.9, which we're ready to do. It's on the agenda right now. We can recess until tomorrow. But I hope that that's something that can come to the committee before 2 p.m. tomorrow if we're going to continue or proceed with the legislation. And if you can also prepare what Secretary is asking and CC the legislature so that we can get a better understanding of the additional requests that's needed. Anything else for PSS? Recognize Senator Castro.
So I know some of the teachers are getting their like addendums to their contract. So can you speak about that? If we intend to give PSS the full 80 hours, why are some getting those kind of letters?
Yeah. It's a safety assurance for the district that if we do not get the funding that's needed at a certain time, right, that everyone will be affected. So that addendum is attached to their contract saying that we may have to furlough you. We may have to cut additional hours.
And are you going to have them all rescind that once the funding goes through? Because I think there's been an instance in the past where funding came in and it didn't get restored back.
It is possible that HR could rescind that addendum back.
Okay. This is a deal, right? So if the government gives that funding,
we would love that.
you have to follow through.
That would be a very good Christmas gift, especially we're celebrating Education Month this month.
Thank you.
Thank
But
you.
I'm just one member. There's a lot that they need to be on this. Thank you.
I guess for now we'll go ahead and dismiss BSS. I hope that if your time permits to come back at 2 p.m.
Okay.
tomorrow, if we're gonna proceed with acting on that 4.9, if members have additional questions, but that's also contingent upon the notification from the administration that those monies are available for reappropriation.
Okay.
And if you have any information as to future unaudited numbers that the legislature can also consider, with the understanding that with the revised budget and trying to meet that number of 40, what is it? The 40 million that PSS needs, if we if there's an understanding that within the fiscal year that there's additional monies that could be reappropriated, then that'll help free up some monies in the general fund that we can use to fund other activities or provide additional funds to PSS.
Yeah.
So, what about 24? How long is that process? You said that you're getting ready to start on 24,
Yes.
and how long will that process take?
We're looking to end or finish by May, end of May.
And that's a pretty aggressive timeline. No?
Yes.
If anything, that could be used for 27, but at least for fiscal year 23, any figure that you anticipate may be available for reappropriation, we can already begin the discussion there and see how we can reappropriate that or get ready to reappropriate that or include as part of the allocations for PSS. Final thoughts. Acting Commissioner, you have
Yeah.
something you want to?
Just a final thought from PSS. I do want to say thank you, Senator Manglonia, Senator Calvo, Senator Cruz, and Senator Castro, for this opportunity to meet with the team. Right. I've taken note of all your concerns, Senator Cruz, about PSS and the need to educate our kids better, right? To ensure that they are knowledgeable so that they do not assume things and protest. But I do want to reiterate again the importance of our students' voices, right? But also our responsibility at PSS to educate them. So I understand and I agree with you wholeheartedly. And to your point, Senator Castro, about respect, yes, positive action. We're putting in a lot of, we're revisiting our funding mechanism and the programs we administer at PSS. So we're putting a lot of effort into anti-bullying, anti-violence, and ensuring our kids are respectful, right, to themselves and to others. So take a note of that. The ITDE is also being revisited. We have heard concerns. The board has shared some concerns as well. So that'll be relayed over to our ITD program. To your request for all these information by 2 p.m. tomorrow, myself and Jonathan will make sure that we get that over to you before noon. On behalf of the PSS and the commissioner and the board, thank you again for the opportunity. We want to invite you all on Friday at 10 a.m. All the schools in the public school system and central office will be doing a roadside waving. So we hope that you can visit your favorite school or maybe go around, visit all our schools or join us up here at Central to wave, pretty much. It'll mean a lot to our schools, especially during this tough time that we have the support of the government, right? So thank you again.
Speaking of Education Month, are teachers getting any incentive based on the current fiscal year's provision in the budget?
We are going to be announcing the Teacher of the Year, so they'll be getting an incentive,
Okay.
right, from that. But we haven't kind of mapped out the bill. I think that you allocated $100,000 for incentives for our teachers. We haven't really implemented that yet. But for this year, the Teacher of the Year will be getting an award and other things.
Okay. Director, you had something you want to add?
Oh yes, we are also every staff of the year who's going to be recognized in Education Day next week. They're going to get an incentive.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. We'll continue the discussions tomorrow. Seeing as how we'll meet again tomorrow, and then any other concerns from the members, we'll also try to address it there. My apologies. I thank you for coming at such short notice. But at least this is a start of a conversation that can be continued on tomorrow. And then, with that, we'll see you tomorrow. And thank you for coming and being present with us today. As for Secretary of Finance and OMB, the 1 million along with the 3.7. Other than the memo that we received yesterday, was there something prepared by either of your entity in regards to maybe having a Schedule C, or is it just simply the figure that was indicated, the money set aside for Road and Tinian, the money set aside for? Do you have anything in addition to what was included in that letter? Further breakdown or?
For the 3.7, like I mentioned earlier, it's already embedded in scenario, the revision, but the 1 million is in the governor's letter that was transmitted yesterday.
Okay. And so we'll find out more after Friday. Friday's your meeting with MPOT? Is this to discuss the 29 million?
Yes.
But that hasn't been signed into law yet, correct?
Yeah, not yet.
Do you know when the administration anticipates signing that?
Right now, we understand that it's being reviewed by the Attorney General, and once it is ready for signature, the governor will act.
Okay. I mean, because absent that, how do we approach the revised budget, right? I mean, we keep getting notification that there's all these urgency and need to do a revised budget, but absent the 29 million, we're pretty much uncertain how that will proceed. And so any information that you may have from that discussion, we appreciate any updates so that we can.
Well, what we do know is that, of course, the governor supported that bill for the margin account. And so again, once the AG's done with his review, the governor is ready to sign that bill, which allows for the margin account. And then there's the second part of it is for the DPL request from MPLT that was in their resolution, which at this point could be addressed in the budget provisions. And so we're confident that with those two requirements that MPLT is asking for, that we will move forward with the pension loan. They did mention in the joint meeting that we had at the governor's office that it's ready. The funds are ready to be dispersed. It's just a matter of those two things being satisfied. So we have number one. Number two can be satisfied with the budget provisions or with an executive order. And so we've drafted that executive order for the meeting on Friday. So again, we're moving quickly on that, and that is why we support immediate passage of the revised budget.
Okay. And so if we were to act on the 1 million separately, we can simply just select from the item that you've proposed, which either could be the rainy day or road and Tinian 500 each. That's something that's ready to go, do you think?
Again, the
Because it's a separate
position of
legislation.
the administration is that we have the opportunity to have one comprehensive budget package. And that's really what the governor had communicated in his letter, is that all these resources should be appropriated as one in a comprehensive budget appropriation, right? So that it's clear where the sources of funds are coming from, where they're appropriated to, and then with any necessary provisions in the Budget Act. And so I know you're considering separate legislations, but at this point, the governor's communication is for one comprehensive budget package.
Inclusive of the 4.9.
Yes.
But seeing as how there is an urgency to cover some of these expenses, right? I mean, we can't really wait around for. What's our timeline with the GHLI?
Our current coverage is only until December 31st, and we should already be in open enrollment period since October 1st. However, that has been suspended because the plan is not fully authorized with budget. So again, that's part of the governor's communication for immediate action on the revised budget.
Okay. Any further questions from the members? Recognize Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. So those that have been already on the austerity measure, you guys gonna reimburse them back, right? Employees. Remember that it was not done. The
For
2% was
the
not done,
10-hour
but it's
cut?
the
Yes.
austerity took effect prior to those. So they're gonna get reimbursed.
Yes, that has been restored
Okay.
since last pay period.
Thank you.
They got their retro, is that the understanding?
Yeah, the timesheets were adjusted for that one pay period, and the adjustment was reflected in the last pay period.
Okay, thank you for that update. Anything else from the members? Recognize Special Assistant Villagomez.
So just going back to the inquiry that you made earlier in regards to, what is that, that additional cost for the government, the retroactive back, because austerity was not, austerity is extended to November 18 for civil service and then November 30 for accepted service. So that amount amounted to $1.1 million.
So would that have to be identified in the revised budget that we've set aside? Because the proposal was for a full year at 70, correct?
It could be identified as, an additional allocation towards all the program offices,
Okay.
or it could just be an offset from the outcome of the budget revision.
Okay, thank you. Dave, you had something you want to add?
OMB or Secretary of Finance, you know why that $5.4 million revenue estimate from NPLT for 2026 is taken out from the governor's revised budget? Revenue from NPLT. You know, in your original budget submission, out of the 179, $5.4 million was included as the revenue estimate from NPLT's distribution on the earnings. But then when you did the,
Revise.
the revise is taken out, you know why?
I believe that was under the assumption that we would have already executed the pension loan and that it would not be part of the transfers in. I believe that was the case, because again, the terms of the pension loan is that it would be withheld, and that was already passed in 24-13, and now the new bill is to authorize the margin account. So I believe that was the understanding for the governor's submission.
But then when you did the without the loan analysis scenario 2, right? You included it as a payment, but you not included as an estimate in your revision.
Okay, we can go back and review that without the loan scenario 2, but just to clarify for scenario 2, without the loan, then MPLT would not withhold the interest, yes, and would remit it,
Right,
yes.
but it's showing as a payment, as a deduction, but it's not showing as an estimate in the budget. This one.
We can go back and review that.
Thank you. Senator Cruz, you had something you want to close with?
No, Chairman, just clarification. You mentioned, Secretary, the one pay period, is that reimbursement?
That's an adjustment to the timesheets that
Just-
was
just one?
in the
Just one
governor's
pay period?
directive. So the one pay period that covered October 1st for the first pay period of the fiscal year, that was the adjustment was just paid in this last payday.
No, but it's not one pay period, right?
It's
That-
not one pay period, but you were asking about whether they got it back yet. And so
Okay.
it's only occurring in that one pay period at that time that was submitted, right, for adjustment. So we will probably have to do another adjustment if the pay period included days where there was an austerity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. At this time, Secretary, we hope to, if PSS is able to furnish you with a copy or the letter that would identify these resources, we hope to get that from the administration. I know you're stating that you want this these additional resources to be included in a whole budget package, but I hope that we can still get a copy of the letter should the legislature decide to treat it as a separate resource.
Yes, it would be provided once we get the official copy or the communication from PSS. It would be just additional supporting documents to the
Okay.
governor's communication that these are general fund resources and should be treated as one comprehensive budget package.
Thank you.
So yes.
Thank you for that. At this time, we'll go ahead and dismiss OMB and Secretary of Finance. Again, we thank you for your time here today. And if there's anything else that we would need clarification on, we'll reach out to your office prior to reconvening tomorrow. Members, we still have these two. Secretary. Before we leave the construction tax bill, while it didn't make the agenda for this meeting, have you had a chance to review the House version that was passed?
I believe we submitted our comments, and I have the director and our legal counsel review it. So if you wanted to ask questions on that, I can call them in.
Well, if you have any, I don't think we got any comments for it. I think it came as I think it was passed first and final. There's no committee report. It hasn't been referred to the committee, but if it's something that's ready to go, we can just put it on our agenda. So if you can share those comments with the members, and then we'll determine whether it's something that we need further deliberation on, or if it's ready to go.
I will let our director know.
Thank you. At this time, members, we will recess until tomorrow at 2 p.m. EAGI? No, we don't have anything for EAGI. Tomorrow's schedule is open, so we'll recess until 2 p.m. To further discuss these two bills that are still up for deliberation. This committee stands in recess until Thursday, November 20. Thank you.